Good morning. It's 10 o'clock, time for KEDA's weekly webinar. And welcome today. We think we have a great lineup for you. Just want to note that we have a dedicated page now on our website for these weekly webinars. And you can find it right there under the COVID tab. It will tell you what's coming up, how to register, and you'll also find recordings, and if they use PowerPoint, the PowerPoint as well. And we'll be welcoming Congressman Kilmer momentarily. So before we do that, we want to ask a quick poll. Let me pull that up. And we want to know, did you apply for one of the federal loans? Give you a couple of seconds. Good morning, Derek.
Good morning.
Okay, looks like everybody's done polling. So 71%, 70% of those watching today said they did. So that's what you guys said. And now I want to go to the follow-up. So if you did apply for one of those loans, have you received funds? And this is the exact opposite percentage, basically, of what we were seeing before. You applied, but you have not received funds to date. Okay, and I will end that. So there are the results for those that did apply for funding, and it looks like only 15% have yet to receive funds. So I just wanted to kind of get a feel for what's going on in our world and where we sit. And I would like to introduce a great friend of KEDA, Congressman Kilmer.
Thanks, Kathy, and thanks to the Kitsap Economic Development Alliance for their important work. John Powers and Kathy and the whole team have done an extraordinary job of getting the best and the most accurate information out there to folks that need it. Kathy, do you want me to take a few minutes now and just provide an overview of where things are and where things are heading?
Yes, please.
Okay. So obviously across our region, across our entire country, the COVID-19 pandemic is putting an extraordinary strain on our healthcare system, on our economy, and on our families. I hope everybody's keeping safe and staying well and managing through these challenging times. As someone who spent a decade working in economic development professionally, I know that small businesses are the backbone of our economy. And so first, I just want to say to the KEDA members who are on this Zoom, thank you. Thank you for employing people. Thank you for doing business in our community. Obviously, this is a very tumultuous time for our economy, and I know our small businesses are facing really unprecedented challenges. But in the face of that, I'm someone who believes that your government needs to have your back. And that's why I'm happy to join on today's event and talk a little bit about what Congress and the federal government have been doing and what they need to do going forward. So last month, we saw the CARES Act become law. It included about $375 billion to provide relief to small businesses so that they could make rent and mortgage and utility costs, and most importantly, keep people on the payroll. The biggest piece of that is the Paycheck Protection Program, which provides cash flow assistance through 100% federally guaranteed loans to employers who maintain their payroll during this emergency. And importantly, if employers maintain their payroll, the loans can be forgiven, which should help workers remain employed and help affected small businesses manage cash flow and hopefully enable our economy to snap back quicker after this crisis. There are likely many of you on this webinar that have either applied or attempted to apply for PPP. You may have seen on the news too that the program exhausted its initial round of funding yesterday. I know that the rollout of this program has been difficult, especially for some of our smallest businesses, particularly in rural and underserved communities. What we've seen around the country and certainly in our region is very significant demand from small businesses and nonprofits for access to these relief dollars, and know that I am committed to fighting tooth and nail to ensure that the PPP is fully funded and that it has the capacity to serve those in need. So to that end, I'm happy to talk about a bill I just introduced this week. It's a bipartisan bill called the Paycheck Protection. It is a bill that's designed to ensure that every qualified small business is able to access this critical assistance so that they can retain their workforce and cover basic operating costs for the full duration of this pandemic. The bill that we introduced, right now the program is set to expire on the 30th of June. As many folks that I've talked to in our region have acknowledged, we may still be in the thick of this past the 30th payroll protection, as long as businesses and nonprofits are seeing an impact of this. Extending that payroll protection, I think, is really important. The other thing that our bill does is it creates a mechanism for an extension that would put little or no burden on small business owners so that they could get an extension. So beyond the 8 weeks of payroll protection, if we are in stay home, stay healthy longer than 8 weeks, it makes sense to provide more than 8 weeks of funding. It is my hope that Congress acts on this as soon as possible, ideally this week. We should see some action on additional Paycheck Protection Program appropriations, hopefully sometime within the next few days. And I think that is important. In a decade of working in economic development, my observation is what employers want from government more than anything else is just an environment of trust and predictability. And right now it is a very unpredictable time, and making sure that employers at least have some predictability about the availability of funds is very, very important. I'll just maybe take just a couple more minutes. Kathy, I'm looking at you to see if that's all right, or if you want me to wrap it up, I'll wrap it up.
No, you can take a few more minutes, and
Okay.
we do, and I don't know what your time is. I see a couple of questions here, so
Okay.
Go ahead.
Sure. So through the CARES Act, on top of that, there was an expansion of the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program. That program also needs additional funds. The intent of that bill was to provide businesses with a loan up to $10,000. SBA has interpreted that as $1,000 per employee. I will tell you that there's been a lot of pushback by Congress because the intent and all of the communications out of advance of $10,000. Importantly, the advance doesn't need to be repaid and can be used to keep employees on the payroll, to pay for sick leave, to meet any sort of business obligations, including rent and mortgage payments. I've heard from some employers who've said, hey, I already have SBA loans. I'm concerned about being able to make payment on those. The CARES Act also established a small business debt relief program to provide immediate relief with non-disaster SBA loans, in particular the 7A and 504 and micro loans. Under that, the SBA will cover all loan payments on principal, interest, and fees for 6 months. And that relief will be available to new borrowers who take out a loan within 6 months of the bill becoming law. There's also a bunch of tax code provisions as part of this. There is a delay in the payroll tax, where employers and self-employed individuals can defer payment of the employer share of the Social Security tax that they, sorry, you may see my 10-year-old walking in and out of the room, so welcome to working at home. Uh, uh, so obviously that is designed just to provide more access to cash for employers that would need to be repaid over the upcoming 2 years. There's an employee retention tax credit, which enables businesses that record a 50% loss in revenue to claim a refundable payroll tax credit on wages up to $10,000 per employee. Something that had been eliminated in the tax bill from a few years back, the net operating loss carryback provision has been restored, so businesses can offset taxes that they paid in the past 5 years have seen this year or in the previous 2 years as well. Again, the rationale behind that is to free up cash. There are some other things, the QIP fix, the qualified improvement property, which I know is of concern to both retailers and to restaurateurs and commercial real estate folks, to be able to have the depreciation schedule back at 15 years on any investments they made in their facility. Let me just end with a few final comments. There are a lot of provisions in the CARES Act. The CARES Act also expands the unemployment insurance program, including an additional $600 per week for the next 4 months, adding an additional 13 weeks of federally funded benefits, and allowing part-time and self-employed and gig economy workers to access benefits. The cash payments are starting to arrive, the $1,200 per adult, $500 per kid on incomes of $75,000 and below, or $150,000 per household. It's clear there's a lot more to do, and conversations are fast and furious about further measures that Congress needs to take. It is really important to me that assistance gets out the door to our small businesses, because I know small businesses are making decisions right now about whether to hunker down and try to get through this, or whether to fold the tent. And we really want to see employers be able to weather this storm. For what it's worth, unfortunately, we see local governments in the same position, where they are. I had a call with local governments yesterday. Some are looking at across the board cuts to services. We have a couple of hospitals in the district I represent that are concerned about being able to make payroll. And so the discussion you see in our nation's capital about not just ensuring that these SBA programs are funded, but also that we're able to meet the needs of local governments and of our frontline healthcare providers, that's also important as well. So thanks for the opportunity to join y'all. Remember, we all have a role to play in stopping the spread of this. The worst thing that could possibly happen is that we weather this storm and then we have another spike in cases because we go back to business as usual. So keep washing your hands, keep taking all those precautions to keep you and your family safe. I can encourage you to continue to visit cdc.gov to learn more about some of those practices. And with that, Kathy, I'll just leave it there. And if you want me to take some questions, I'm happy to.
Okay, yeah, a couple of quick questions. You answered the one about will there be more funds for the idle loans, and you addressed that. I know that a lot of people have still weren't even able to apply because the queues were long or banks weren't taking new. The question about will the 501c6s, DMOs, and other types of nonprofits be added to an extension plan?
Yeah, it's a good question, and unclear yet. There's been a lot of discussion around entities that were not covered in the first round of the Paycheck Protection Program. Part of the discussion has also been to unfortunately, what we've seen is the unbanked and underbanked, and particularly some rural areas and female and minority-owned businesses have not had as much success accessing the Paycheck Protection Program. So part of the conversation that you're seeing in Congress is to bolster some of the resources available for things like the Minority Business Development Association and entities that support women-owned businesses so that they can navigate the system better. There's been some discussion about getting resources to community development financial institutions like Craft 3 in our region that have more experience working with micro loans and really small businesses that may not have as much experience working with traditional lenders. So I guess that's the best answer that I can give. It's a bit of a moving target. To me, and I see Denise Fry's question. Part of the reason that I introduced this bill about let's create a pot that's focused on small businesses and make it even bigger than we imagine it may need. So the bill that Jamie Herrera Butler and I have proposed would almost triple the size of the Paycheck Protection Program. And what we've said is, if you don't end up using all the money, great, we'll send those dollars back to the Treasury. But let's make sure that we provide certainty to our local employers that when they knock on the door, someone's there to answer it.
Okay, cool. And I see a few more questions, and I think we need to move on just as courtesy to the other panelists. But if you are able to stay, great. If not, I understand you have lots of people wanting to chat with you. And if need be, we will just send you the questions that don't get answered for follow-up.
Super. And I'll just say, I'm not sure if I can stay. I have to look at my calendar. But Evan Smith from my team is on the line. He is just evan.smith@mail.house.gov. He is spending all day, every day, talking to local employers from all throughout the district I represent, just helping them navigate this. And again, we work for you. That's how this works. So if an issue comes up where you think we can lend a hand, we are eager to do that. And again, thank you for doing business in our region. We want to make sure we're helping everybody try to weather this.
Okay, thank you, Derek. And we at KEDA love your team, so.
Thank you.
All right, moving on. Let's see, I want to do another quick, nope. We're ready to go to Dan. So Dan Weedin has a great presentation for us. So take it away, Dan.
Great, thank you. Welcome, everybody. And I think I'm going to wait. Teresa has, oh, here we go. And Teresa, if you could go to my front page, that would be great. Well, welcome, everybody. Thank you for being here. Thank you to Congressman Kilmer for that update. That was really important, important information. As many of you might know, I am a business continuity consultant. That means I help businesses to stay in business in crisis. And the very best way to stay in business during the crisis is revenue growth. That's the reality. One of my great clients who happens to be on this call, he knows who he is. He says all the time, sales take care of a lot of problems, maybe take care of almost the problems. So we're going to focus over the next few minutes on some ways that all of you can take right now to pivot. Teresa, go ahead and go to the next one. What I call the pivot point. So pivot point number one is about mindset. When all of you started your business, you weren't waiting for money to come from the federal government or the state government. You bootstrapped, you got it together, and you put up your shingle and you went. And that's what we have to do today. We have to not overly worry or worry at all about when our stimulus money comes or anything like that. We've got to start working right now. We have to stop any type of negative thinking. I know that that can happen. We have to be positive. It's an all hands on deck mentality. That means you, your employees, your key stakeholders. This is an important part right here. You have to allocate time to that pivot. That means you have to invest time to strategize, to innovate, to work with coaching and mentoring groups that you might have, to do research, to do some trial and error, and whatever else might work. It's now time. We're in the middle of April. We know this is going to continue on. So now is the time to invest in strategizing for growth. I call it my full court press situation. There is a big risk reward component, and that's what it's like being an entrepreneur. Teresa, next one, please. So I'm going to talk about some different areas today. We're going to talk about some ways in each of these bullet points. That's Bella right there. You can see I've continued to employ Bella. She's working hard right now. We're going to talk about some ways and some things that COVID-19 hasn't taken away and can't take away from you. We sometimes focus on what it has taken away, our physical distancing. Here are some ways that you can be top of mind and growing revenue during a COVID-19 period or a non-COVID-19 period. Next, please, Teresa. We're going to talk about live streaming. Some of you have gotten to know a little bit more about live streaming. Heck, that's kind of what we're doing right now. Live streaming can be done on Facebook. It can be done on Instagram. It can be done on LinkedIn. You can do Zoom and live stream through these other platforms. Here's the cool thing. It's free. It's easy. All you need is a phone and a little courage. This counts, podcasting counts in this as well. By live streaming and podcasting, you have the chance to get in front of your community, your buyers, the people who either care about you now or should care about you in the future. And what do you live stream about for a 3 to 10 minute period? The solution is, how do you improve the condition of others while they're at home? So I've come up with a few examples. If you're a health professional, maybe you're a chiropractor, a doctor, an acupuncturist, a fitness trainer, somebody who does anything to do with physical therapy. People are staying home. How do they stay healthy? I've talked to a lot of people who say, I wish I had an avenue outside of somebody on YouTube I don't know to help me stay home or healthy at home. What are some exercises? What are some stretches? What are some things that I can do while I'm here? People want to know that. Those of you in the health professional field, you know how to do it. Share it. If you do retail auto parts, there's a lot of people at home doing do-it-yourself car repairs and maintenance. Live stream some things that they should know. How do you change your oil? What kind of tools do you need? What kind of parts do you need? If you're a contractor, I know that many of the residential contractors can't be working now. People want to know how to do some simple home repairs and maintenance. If you're in professional services, you have an office, you might be an essential business and you might be open. Interview some of your people, have them talk about what they do. Show behind the scenes, behind the curtain of what people are doing and how they can answer questions right then and there. And if you are in any type of technology, I guarantee you people want to know how to do different technology things. Can you teach them how to do Zoom? Can you teach them how to do different things? All of these are live streaming opportunities. The second thing that COVID-19 can't take away is networking. I have been on 3 different networking events this week, 2 in Washington, 1 in California. I wouldn't have made the California one without it. Zoom, GoToMeeting, FaceTime, WebEx, Teams, whatever works for you. Start doing more networking, just like you would be doing if you got a chance to go meet somebody for coffee. You must be proactive. You've got to find the opportunities. And I recommend to everybody to have 5 goals in mind when you do networking. Number 1, don't hang out with the same people that you normally hang out with. Meet new people. Each of these events I went to were tons of people who I'd never met. And I've got 5 scheduled appointments with people from around the country, from Atlanta to California to Seattle, that I met that are new, and we have an interest in what each other does. Schedule those meetings. I guess that's a good segue. Schedule those meetings. Meet new people, schedule meetings, start building relationships, just like you would do if you had attended an event. Give before getting. Here's an opportunity to give some of your expertise. Offer some free services during this time. Give opportunities for people to be able to work with you. And that's a focus that we do normally, right? There's a good opportunity to network and do that here. Set some minimum and maximum goals. For instance, one of my minimum goals when I network is I want to schedule at least one appointment, one meeting after each networking event. Set goals to that, and then focus on your CRM, which is a client relationship manager. Add people to it, do follow-ups. These are all things you'd normally be doing, right? Make sure that you're continuing to network in a COVID-19 world. Something else that COVID-19 can't take away, that's membership-based, and I'm going to throw in revenue here. By using a video or publishing platform, what can you offer? What is it that your business does today that could be offered on a membership base? You're going to hear from Aljolynn later. Aljolynn has a great membership-based business. What can you do? Think of what podcast patrons do. They pay for additional programming. So I put some ideas. I put 8 ideas out there of something where you could charge anywhere from $5 to $50 per month and have people come on. Health and fitness. I know that there are people out there who have great fitness programs. You don't have to give it away for free. Charge a small amount for people to have a regular access to you. Cooking. Anybody who, if you're a restaurant, think about that. Could you do cooking shows and how to do that? Parenting skills, especially if you're parenting and working from home at the same time. Home repair. Anything related to continuing education and knowledge, social gatherings, coaching and mentoring, technology. Think about your business. You might have a situation where, at least for the time being, you are able to offer some sort of a membership-based service that will bring in some revenue. The cool thing is that after social distancing and physical distancing ends, you still may be able to use these as a revenue source. Teresa, next, please. This is important too. There's been so much on the news, in the media, talking amongst people around the whole COVID-19. We need a distraction too. Some of the best attended events that I have done have been things that are related to fun. Many of you have gotten involved in virtual happy hours, whether it's been an internal function or an external one. I know myself, I've been hosting one with a client, High Spirits in Paulsbo. We do one at 5:30 every Friday, and we're going to continue to do it until this crazy is over. You can do coffee meetups. Instead of having to actually go someplace, bring your own coffee with you. I had some coffee here and I have water. You can do coffee meetups. I know Aljolynn does karaoke. I haven't been to one yet. I'm going to come and sing Hotel California. I promise, Aljolynn, and you can hold me to that. I do trivia nights for fun. I know that others have done dance parties. Look, we all need some distraction during this time. It's really important for our mental health. And when we're mentally healthy, we're able to actually work in our business a little bit better. What can your business do? What can you do that's fun, that's out of the box? This is part of that innovative strategic thinking that I talked about in the beginning. The chairman of the board of my organization is Captain Jack, and he's saying this right now. COVID-19 can't take away you. What is it that you, and when I say you, I mean you and your employees and your people, what is it that you bring to the table that is so vitally important? When you get that figured out, your value proposition, when you get that figured out, and I know all of you probably already know it, now find out, how do I get this out? How do I use technology? How do I use other people to help spread the word about how I can improve somebody else's condition? You still have great value. Actually, I would say this, you all have even more value to give during these times because people need you and your products and your services more. Teresa, go ahead. Okay, there you go. So here's some final pivot to the who points. Stop fretting, start innovating. We're gonna have to figure, this is how it's going to be for a while. Even as we start opening up, it's not going to be exactly the same. If you heard Governor Inslee say yesterday that he's probably going to start bringing things back in the inverse order that they went out, large gatherings would be last. So think about that. This is probably into the future, into 2020 perhaps, things that we might need to continue to do. The world will be new moving forward. What and with whom will you be bringing with you? It's not the 1920s. They had a depression in the 1920s because nobody could work and you couldn't do what we're doing now. It's the 2020s. We can use technology and the innovation that we are able to do from the 2020s to avoid anything remotely looking like the 1920s. Bottom line, you have control. You have more control than you think, really. Put the ball in your hands. This is your time to innovate, to grow your business, and most importantly, by doing that, to help others, to help those people that most need you at this time.
Thank you, Dan. And just for Dan, our next poll.
And as you bring that up really quickly, anybody want to ask me questions privately? If you don't want to bring it up live, I will take any private chats that you have here on this.
So we're asking, have you attended one or more social happy hours or any other things that was on Dan's list? Yes, no, and wow, I'm so sorry if none of us have invited you. Make sure that you're inviting new people, as Dan mentioned.
Hey, Kathy, I'm going to go ahead in the chat bar here in a second and put, everybody's invited to my virtual happy hour every Friday. I'll go, if it's okay, I'll go ahead and put the link.
Yep.
All you got to do is go register.
So, exactly, then no one has to say that anymore, right? Perfect. I'm glad to see the large majority of people have been taking care of themselves and taking a break online to have a little bit of fun. I'll end that. Share the results. And now it's my pleasure to introduce Aljolynn. I met Aljolynn through Vibe and 6-month startup, and I'm just excited to hear what she has to share. So go ahead.
Thanks, Kathy, and the KEDA team. So I am Aljolynn Sperber, the CEO and founder of Ladybox, an organic period care and comfort subscription box company. I am going to walk through how to market your business during COVID-19. And I hope that you are able to walk away being able to feel more relieved with having to market your business, because really it's nothing scary, it's nothing really new. It's really just going back to the core of you and the purpose of your business and why you're doing things. And then just taking away what you're able to do with the core and move on from that. So the key thing to do while marketing during COVID-19 is remember to be human and remember to be intentional. So when you started your business, you knew what you wanted to do and you knew why you wanted to do it and you know who you were doing this for. And so if you go back to that and you remember 2 core emotions of humans, that's love and fear, and you put together your plan knowing what emotion you want to spark in people, then you can really market yourself successfully to your core demographic and target customer. And if you think about it right now, a lot of the emotions and feelings are tied to fear. So if you're able to take your marketing and help like everybody take a collective breath, I think that's the best way to approach any customers that you want to reach. So be human in your messaging. Some companies local to Kitsap that have been doing that really well is Vibe Coworks. Elena Imbach, the founder, she did a really good job from you know, taking a human standpoint in informing her members and the community, like, this is what we're doing at Vibe to make sure that we are taking care of our members, that we're being safe, and we are taking all of these measures to sanitize our area. And so she took leadership in doing that, and she shared that via email, through social media, through all of the different marketing channels, so that people knew that they were in a safe space while co-working from Vibe. Another great example is Fearless in Training. They released resources for COVID-19, you know, like, where can I learn more about how to apply for PPP? So they've collected all of these different resources for business owners so that they can access that and, you know, feel a little bit better about how to take action for their business. So just remembering that, like, we're all human and we all need to help take care of each other, and being intentional, that is going to help with your marketing. Now, being intentional, you don't have to plan out like 6 months in advance what you want to do. You can think a week in advance, a month in advance of what you want to do, and then just write down like your top 3 goals in terms of marketing and just execute on that. Like, one goal can be, I want to get my website set up or like upload new products to my website, so then that way people know what I have available. So that is a great way to like make sure that you're being really intentional and not just throwing spaghetti on the wall and hoping it sticks. The next thing is lean on your list. So if you are old enough to remember what a Rolodex looks like, that's what that image is. It's a Rolodex. So what I mean by leaning on your list is leaning on your email list, leaning on your social media following, leaning even on your team. If you still have employees, lean on them. And by leaning on them, I mean share your updates, share where you're at right now. If you're brick and mortar and you had to go online, just tell your fans and your followers and your customers where you're at now. And don't be paralyzed by perfection. Just get something live, because people want to support small businesses now more than ever. So lean on your list, send emails, post social media updates. Elise from Away with Words Bookshop in downtown Paulsbo did a great job and has been doing a good job of sharing Instagram stories, sharing social media posts, and letting people know that, hey, we have a website and you can schedule pickups for our social distancing care packages. And she's been really consistent about posting that. So businesses that are leaning on their list and leaning on their followers and sharing constant updates have been doing a great job in being able to generate revenue right now. And even listening to your list of feedback. For example, Ladybox has gotten feedback like, I would love to send a care package to a friend, but I don't want to send a period one. So if you did a non-period care package, I would totally do that. So then I had to shift and make sure to let people know that I now have non-period care packages. Collaboration over competition. I think this one is so important right now, that all small businesses and all small businesses support each other and help each other out, rather than be afraid that, oh, well, if I do this, they're going to see it and they're going to steal it. I don't think we're in that position at all right now. I think we all want to help each other out. So Alicia from Skyhawk Press has launched the Paulsbo Strong, which is a great example of collaboration over competition, and launching these t-shirts so then that way small businesses in the Poulsbo area can be supported. And I believe that another organization in Bremerton has done something similar for Bremerton Strong. So I love that these companies are working together to help support each other. And when you collaborate, you can cross-promote between your lists too. So that is an awesome way to do collaboration and partnering. And it doesn't just have to be something like what the Poulsbo Strong campaign is. It can be fun giveaways on your social media or through your emails, or even doing, like an example from Dan, doing live streaming with another business. So actually Elise from Away with Words Bookshop and I did a Instagram live, and she demoed her bath bombs and I got to talk about the April Lady Box. So there's all these different great ways to collaborate through marketing channels. And just lean on the different marketing channels that you currently have. You don't have to create new ones if you don't want to. You have to make sure that you have the time, team, and resources to be able to do so. So if you're a solo person and you're really successful on Instagram, just stay on Instagram and work with the other companies on that successful channel. The last one here is connect with your customers. I want to emphasize again, do not be paralyzed by perfection. People would love to hear from you. They want to hear your story, and because they want to support you. So the more that you share your story and how your business is doing and what you have available, the more that they're going to want to support you. But also connect with them where they are. Meet them where their channel is. So if your customers are on email, tap into that email list and send them an email, and it can just be words and maybe just one photo. It doesn't have to be a fancy email with special coding, or it can be a simple Facebook post or an Instagram post. Just connect with your customers and share your story. They want to hear it. They want to help you. And even if they can't support you financially by buying your product or service, they can still support you by sharing your story with others. And that's why it's important to be on some kind of marketing channel like Facebook or Instagram or email, so they can share or forward that story with someone that might purchase from you and become a customer. So here's a helpful marketing checklist to help you out. Set your intentions. What is your purpose of marketing? Are you wanting to get more customers? Do you need lead generation? Have an intention and work backwards from that. And how are you going to measure that success? KPIs are so important. Please don't do anything by just throwing spaghetti on the wall. Have an intention and know your why. You already know your why. You started your business because of your why. Establish your tone and voice. So do you want to be nurturing? Do you want to be empowering? Do you want to be informational? Or are you wanting to set a rally cry? Either one is fine, but know what your tone and voice is. That's going back to intention. With Ladybox, when all of this was rolling out and really impacting Washington State, I had started posting Instagram stories with motivational and inspirational and thoughtful quotes to help people feel, less alone. And I also posted fun interactive like bingo and tagging stories. So you can be nurturing or empowering. Just know what your tone is going to be and move forward with that. Know your marketing channels. That's part of being intentional, and that's part of leading on your list. And don't be afraid to, use those. If you have moved from brick and mortar to online, make sure you update all of the contact information and let people know where they can find you. It's so important to let people know where they can find you now. And tell your story. People want to hear your story and support you. And share how you're helping the community. The more social responsibility and help and thoughtfulness that you're putting towards the community, the more people are going to want to support your business too. Again, lean on your list. tell your email list where you're at, communicate with your customers at least once a week. And it doesn't have to be an exhaustive email. It can be a quick Instagram or Facebook update. Here's what's going on. Just want to share this with you. You can find us at whereveryouare.com. And then identify other businesses that are aligned with your ethos and with your goals, and connect with them and see how you guys can partner together. Again, Pulse Bow Strong was a great example of that. There's so many other businesses that are leaning on each other and supporting each other. So don't be afraid to do that. And then let's please all take a collective breath, inhale, exhale, and don't forget to hydrate and get some sleep. That's so important with everything that you are having to deal with on your massive to-do list. It's so important to hydrate and get some sleep. And you can find me on joinladybox.com or LinkedIn if you'd like to connect. And for being an audience member, you get 30% off on your subscription if you use code Kitsap on joinladybox.com. And if you would like to connect with me to get more insights on best marketing practices for COVID-19, feel free to email me.
Thanks, Aljolynn. That was great. And another poll, and hopefully the answers will be different now than if I had done this before your presentation. So do you feel like you now have the time, team, or resources to execute impactful marketing during this time? And I will note that once the presentations are all finished, we will take questions. And I do see some questions popping up, so don't, fear. We will get to them. Look at that. You've inspired them, Aljolynn.
Yay.
This is great. And for those that said no, you should just follow up with Allie, right? Okay, I'm going to end that. Share the results. Okay. So next up is Shannon, and we're doing a little switcho with the screen control. So take it away, Shannon Bruce. Shannon is also a longtime community member and cheerleader. So go ahead. Oh, you're muted. Go ahead, Shannon.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, great. All right, so we have just heard some great insight from Dan and Aljolynn and several opportunities to move forward. And what we're going to be talking about today is stopping the swirl, gaining traction in uncertain times. And as you can see, the iceberg that we see on the top is similar to what we've heard from Dan and Aljolynn, in the sense that we can really look at those tangible action steps that we can move forward. And one of the things that Dan was pointing to was this idea of mindset. So with StoryBridge, which is my company, I actually work with individuals, leaders, teams, and organizations to really shift mindset and to create positive behavior change in support of being able to move forward. And we need to have traction to be able to do that. The challenge with mindset is that below the surface, in the undercurrent of the water, especially with COVID-19, there's this undercurrent that we can't see. However, we can definitely sense it and we feel it in the daily form of that looming tension and unrest that's happening. And while we want to focus on moving forward and take those healthy actions, every TV commercial, every tweet, every new news brief basically reminds us of the looming threat of COVID-19 that's always there. And there's more questions without answers, which can actually keep us swirling. So as I was preparing today, I confirmed that the calmest part of the hurricane is the eye of the storm. And when I looked at Google, the definition is it's actually the calmest section of any hurricane. And it's so calm because the surface winds that converge towards that will never reach the center. So if we think about this pandemic as the hurricane that's whirling around, our goal is to stop the swirl by staying calm, gaining traction that will allow us to move forward and really do the innovative ideas that Dan and Aljolynn were talking about, and to have practices that will help us return to the calm, because the truth of the matter is we will get triggered. So just yesterday, I was talking to an executive client at a local firm, and I asked, what would you like to hear about today? And this person said, I want to find that mental calm, I want to get clarity, and I want to have some positive focal points that I can put my attention toward. And really, it's these positive focal points that allow you to pivot in healthy and innovative ways. So that's what we're going to be doing here today, looking at this through the lens of neuroscience first, because it's important for us to really understand the physiology and how we are wired as human beings. Then we'll identify some specific strategies that you can put into action personally, professionally, and organizationally. So let's go ahead and begin with this idea of neuroscience. And the thing that we need to focus on first is just to stop, to slow down, and to get grounded, because it really starts and begins with us, because innovation is an inside job. So I want you to experience this. So we're going to actually practice a breathing technique. In fact, Aljolynn was talking about that. We need to breathe. And this might actually stretch some of you out of your comfort zone, but since no one can see you, I want to encourage you just to try it out here today. So I want to invite you to start by just closing your eyes, tune inward, and as you do so, I just want you to take a deep breath, just full breath in. And imagine that this breath is starting at the bottom of your feet, it's going through your body, and comes to the top of your head. Now exhale slowly, letting that breath go from the top of your head back through your body to your feet. And as you continue to take those slow, deep, measured breaths, feel your feet on the floor. Really get grounded. And as the breath moves up your body, notice whether you are sitting on the chair or are you sitting in the chair. And is your body tense or is it relaxed? As you get to your heart, just notice, what are you feeling right now? Are you feeling calm, a little anxious? Continue to take those deep breaths in and out, and as you get to your head, notice your thoughts. Are they positive? Are they negative? Stay out of any judgment and just notice. So take one more deep breath in and out, and go ahead and come back from this process by opening your eyes and just take note of your experience. I want to connect the dots now to what's happening in your physiology based on brain science, which is really a foundational context for the work that I do as a coach. So when we take a look at the screen now, when you are feeling stressed and worried, you're typically in the lower part of your brain, and the tension and anxiety that exists in your body is what can lead you to those negative thoughts. It activates your amygdala, it evokes fear and distrust, and your body is literally flooded with cortisol, which is the stress hormone, and your heart races and your palms sweat and your thoughts swirl, and you begin to feel the weight of that stress. And in the moment, you're reacting with a fight, flight, or freeze response because you're merely focused on just surviving. And this can keep the swirling and the stuck feeling, keeping you from being able to access those higher parts of your brain where the innovation lives that's going to support you during this time of COVID-19. However, as you engage in this grounding practice of that deep breathing, you can literally shift your physiology by breathing in that slow, methodical way, and it helps you tap into those upper parts of your brain. You stop, you slow down, you tune in, your body relaxes, and you can become more stable. And with each deep breath, your heart rate begins to even out, your anxiety starts to settle down, and you become calmer, and your thoughts become clearer. And you connect to your whole self, mentally, emotionally, physically, and the activation of oxytocin, which is a connection hormone, actually allows you to self-connect, and the stress can begin to dissipate, which gives you access to your prefrontal cortex, where empathy, creativity, all will allow you to innovate versus reacting and swirling. So from this place of inner calm right now with mental clarity, I want to offer you some specific ways that you can begin to focus and take action personally, professionally, and organizationally to create those innovations that allow you to pivot your business. So personally, this is an opportunity for you to focus on the intersection of what matters most to you and what you can control. So if we break this down further, focusing on what matters most to you gives you an opportunity to spend some time in reflection and to answer questions that will help you gain the inner clarity that you may need to move forward. Questions like, what do I value? How do I want to show up as a leader during this pandemic? How do I want to live? And what do I want my life to be like at the other side of this? As you gain that inner clarity, you want to begin to move forward and start taking a look at where you can focus on influencing and controlling your response. So as we see here, Stephen M.R. Covey provided a great tool for us to use. It's called the Circle of Influence and Concern. And as you can see by the graphic, if we focus on what we're concerned about, like the news, the economy, the pandemic, we will shrink often from fear, which triggers our amygdala, which puts us in fight, flight, or freeze. The flip of that is that when we focus on what we can influence, the things that matter most, we're connected to our prefrontal cortex, we remained empowered, and we can have a compass that actually guides us forward. So professionally, it's really an opportunity to set some new guardrails and to narrow your focus. So for example, I've been thinking about some of the clients I've been working with, and one particular CEO has provided guardrails by giving his team a message on the 3 phases of the pandemic. So if you look at phase 1, it's that threat and react where we've all been prior, to the stay home, stay safe order. Phase 2 is really where we're at now, where we're stabilizing and we're attempting to build resilience. And phase 3 is where eventually we'll evolve a new normal. And the reality is that we're potentially moving backward into phase 1 and phase 2. And of course, there's going to be several iterations and transitions between phase 2 and phase 3. But what this does is it provides a place to look. It provides a guardrail and a structure for yourself and for your team to really become more effective. It's also vital to keep a more narrow focus. For example, shorten your time frames to 30 days and 60 days instead of really looking out a quarter or a year so that people can stay productive. The more you expand the point of view and the time frame, the more we begin to swirl. So really narrowing that focus in. It's also an opportunity to work on innovation around your processes that you've needed to update or improve that can set you up for greater effectiveness and productivity now as well as into the future. So by doing this, what you'll actually find is it can awaken some newfound creativity and really gives an opportunity for you and your team and your organization to thrive. If we think about it organizationally, it's really important to continue to revisit your strategic initiatives regularly and keep that eye forward to the future, again, within that narrow focus. Because the reality is that we don't want to lose sight on those things that mattered before COVID. And yet at the same time, we have to be agile and adaptable to address what's here now. So the reality is to do what you can do now and really allow this to build meaning and purpose for your employees as you begin to gain some traction. In fact, one executive that I'm working with offered that his team actually was able to accomplish things that they figured they'd take on, much later down the road, but now they had the time to do it. They had the ability to focus and join together, and they've accomplished those things way ahead of schedule. And the reality is it built this positive energy, and it allowed them to feel a sense of meaning and purpose. The other thing you want to do is build that positive energy by championing the wins. For example, that executive I mentioned before, they really took some time to celebrate the accomplishments of their team. But even more importantly, start to notice the behavior of your employees. Start to see the ways that they're showing up. Things like unity, camaraderie, creative, tenacity, bravery. All of these things matter. And it's an opportunity for you to do a shout out during a video, or send a newsletter or a team meeting. Talk about these things and point out these soft skills, because right now these are actually more important than the metrics, because it's revealing the character and the heart of your leaders as well as your organization. We've talked, Dan and Aljolynn have talked as well about the connection. What some local companies are doing is they're doing theme gatherings by Zoom, literally with the intent just to connect. I heard of one company that had a Hawaiian theme, and they all dressed up in Hawaiian garb and really just spent some time connecting to each other. There's also someone on this particular Zoom right now who shared with me that his company, they delivered pizza and pop to each one of their employees, and they did a virtual Zoom party, again, to build that sense of connection and community. So as we summarize all of this, it's really about practicing first and foremost those grounding rituals to stop the swirl, to really reconnect, with your physiology and your brain science, so that you can then focus on what matters most and what you can control. You want to define your guardrails, narrow that focus, continue to revisit your strategic initiatives, champion character, and create connection. And all of this is going to help to reduce those amygdala hijacks. It'll shift the energy from negative to positive. It'll allow that mindset to be focused toward innovation, give calm, give clarity, and allow you to focus on what you can control, which supports that empowered sense of peace and the ability to thrive even in the midst of uncertainty. And this is where the pivot leads to innovation. Ultimately, I just want to invite you to be realistic and hopeful. Remember to extend compassion to the very real human experience, because it is something none of us have gone through. And you can do this by practicing the yes and. It gives you the chance to honor the full range of emotion. For example, yes, we can feel grateful, and we can be disappointed that things are canceled. This acknowledgement really helps you to gain traction, and it allows us to stop that swirl. And ultimately, my final hope is that by continuing to be brave, courageous, authentic through this, in this new normal, we'll be able as leaders to show up and become those rare leaders that can take care of hearts while also taking care of business. And in the end, we're going to prosper not only in our workplaces, but also in our homes and our communities, because together we are better. So if you have any questions or would like to continue the conversation, feel free to reach out. My email is there, and if there's questions we can answer along this time, we'll do that toward the end. But thank you, and again, just continue to breathe and be focused and learn how to stop that swirl for the sake of gaining that traction.
Thank you, Shannon. And I've noticed a kind of a theme from all three of the panelists that have presentations. It's about being you, be in the moment, and look forward, not backward. And we're going to do a few we will take questions. I just have a couple of polls that I wanted to kind of finish up with. Sorry, I had to find the right. So related to Shannon's presentation, what are you doing to stay grounded and not get sucked in by the swirl? Are you limiting how much you're on social media, watching the news? have a daily ritual, you're just taking time for yourself to rejuvenate, or you need help. And we know how to find you help, so let's not worry about that anymore. So that's good. People are mixing it up. Some have one thing that works best for them. How does that make you feel, Shannon, to see that folks are taking care of themselves?
I can't see the poll yet, so.
Well, you can't.
No.
Why not?
Well, have you done the results?
I'm going to share the results now.
Nice. That's awesome.
Isn't that great? Glad to hear people are taking care of themselves. Okay, and then one final poll, because I just need to know this answer. How are you dressed for today's webinar? Are you dressed for success? You're in PJs and bunny slippers, you have yoga pants and a t-shirt, or we probably don't really want to know. End it, and then I'll share. Oh, look at that, I like it. People are dressed for the day. They're out there to conquer. Or they are what I'm usually wearing, yoga pants and a t-shirt. I like it. Okay, so now it's time for you to ask your questions. In addition to the three panelists, Congressman Kilmer did have another commitment, but Evan is still on the line, I believe. And if necessary, we can always forward those questions to his team. So we also have Monica Blackwood, who is very well versed in anything related to unemployment and workforce. Jamie Forsyth, who is our local business advisor with Kitsap Small Business Development Center. Shannon Bruce, who you just heard speak. Aljolynn, who did great suggestions on marketing during this trying time. And Dan Weedin, who is helping us how to think outside the box. So we're ready for your questions. So you can either raise your hand, you can write it in chat, and if we don't have any driving questions, then we all get to get off Zoom soon. I'm not seeing, oh wait. Monica, can you give a grade to ESD on getting checks to laid off employees? Monica.
Hello.
Okay.
Can
Hi,
you hear?
Monica. Sorry about that.
Okay, so can you repeat that question? I think I missed the first part of it.
It said, can you give a grade to ESD on getting checks to laid off employees?
Can you give a grade?
I guess they want whether it's an A, a B, a C.
On how ESD is doing, or your input?
Yeah, or getting checks to laid off employees.
Well,
I know they've had a huge backlog.
Exactly, they have had a huge backlog, and I know that they're scrambling. Actually, Susie Levine was asking businesses just yesterday, and I know I've talked about it before, about how to help equip those employees that you're laying off to be a little bit more successful, a little bit faster in their system. Some of those tips include on the ESD website, there's a checklist for employees to go through to make sure they have all the right information gathered together before they start their application to make that process smoother. Another tip was that ESD is doing webinars on how to navigate the application and so forth, and that actually has proved to be the best way for people to actually reach somebody from ESD, because they can chat just like we are doing now. They can chat about specific questions. And another big tip I know is that a lot of businesses have a registered name and then they do a DBA, like, doing business as. And most employees know what the name of the company is that they're doing the business as, but they don't know the registered business name. And when they're going in to fill out unemployment applications, they need to know what that registered business name is. So if employers can share that information and make sure employees are versed on that, all of that will help streamline the process for applications to be approved quicker, which I think would bring the grade up and help lower the pipeline a little bit more on ESD's side. There's a long answer for you.
Okay, thanks. I know that they've been working really hard.
Yes,
Do you
they
know
have been.
if the website update has been completed to allow the self-employed to?
I have heard that will be live starting on April 19th, which is this Sunday.
Okay, cool. So, and then everything is retro, correct?
Correct. Including when the federal government gets their $600 a week check, that will end up being retro as well.
Okay.
So I'm told. Things change.
Yes, they do. I would agree. ESD has done a phenomenal job just trying to keep their website updated. They've added videos. Susie Levine sent out an email today to all the partners with an update. So they're trying really hard. I would say that. Jamie, there's a question about idols. If there's any way they're actually going to start telling people where they are in the process, or if it's still just wait.
I can only give you those 2 words, just wait. That's the best we can get, even when we talk to the SBA, is that assuming you got your confirmation number and applied after March 30th. Well, things have changed so often with the SBA. Okay, so what it is now is, it seems like no matter when you applied, people are hearing from loan processors. If you applied soon, they heard soon, and then it got totally backlogged. But if you applied before March 30th, you do have to apply again, simply to get the cash advance portion. But it also verifies that it didn't get lost in a previous version. So I'm sorry, that has to sound complicated, but that's the way it is. And so you can email Kitsap SBDC at wwu.edu, and or sign up as a client if you have further questions about this. We're here to help and try and help you navigate this process, which sometimes is not the same tomorrow as it was yesterday. So we're doing our best to help you.
Hey, Jamie, hold on. Yesterday, I actually got a hold of an 800 number and was able to call, and I did sit on hold for 45 minutes, but I was working on other things, and eventually I did get somebody, and they were able to check on the status of my EIDL loan and fill in information because I had that application number. So I can dig up that phone number and share it with you.
That'd be great, actually.
Yes, I think everyone who's applied would appreciate that.
Sure.
Let's see.
And now that everyone knows, you can probably wait an hour and a half, but still, if you can put your phone on aside and multitask.
Exactly.
Okay, so so there's a question for how do you determine what rates? I think that's what they're meaning as a smaller medium enterprise. How do you consultant? If you're a consultant, how do you determine rates when you're working with other businesses? So that would be Dan, Aljolynn, Shannon. Anyone want to take that?
Can you repeat the question? I was actually responding to somebody who had sent me a text on here. So could you repeat that? I'm sorry.
Oh, no worries. They're just trying to, I think they're trying to figure out, so if I were to try to do something and be, as a consultant, how would I determine what to charge?
Oh, that's that's a longer conversation than probably right here. That's I'm happy. I'm happy because I do work with consultants. I coach and mentor consultants. I'm happy to have a conversation, no charge. Dan@danweedin.com. You can call me. I'm happy to set up a time to talk with anybody who wants to talk about that. That's a little bit of a lengthier conversation.
Yeah.
Like, short answer is think of your experience, think of what you're offering, and then add some tax to it.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, I always suggest people kind of check their gut on that, and see what feels appropriate based on what they're offering and what they're providing. But again, it really does vary depending on what a client's looking for. So, I'm also happy to have a conversation. So just Shannon@shannonbruce.com.
Okay, so the person who asked that, follow up with our panelists. They're all willing to help you. And again, this webinar recording and the slides will be on the KEDA website either later today or tomorrow morning. So look for that. I am looking for any other questions. Oh, somebody's asking me about the status of the Working Washington Small Business Emergency Grant applications. So KEDA, for those that aren't aware, this is the governor's program that he announced last week. Every economic development organization in the state, we all represent a single county. Sometimes smaller areas represent 2 or 3 in the rural areas. Received multiple applications. Kitsap received in all, with follow-ups and the wrong county, et cetera, 1,000. We are able to forward 64 to Commerce, and of those, around less than 20 will be awarded. The final decision is made by Commerce. We will begin reviewing those next Monday. So that is the update on that program. Let's see. Any other questions? I think I've hit all the ones that the panelists want to scroll back through. Again, I don't want to keep people who don't need to have other things to do, like, spiff up your outreach to your team and those who are your clients. So I'm going to say thank you to Dan, Aljolynn, Shannon, Jamie, Monica, and Congressman Kilmer. We'll be here again next week at 10, and watch for details, and hope you have a great Thursday and weekend. Thank you.
Thanks.